So you want to be intentional about when you're going to deliver those documents. And then also, how are you going to deliver them? So is it going to be delivered via phone call? Is it going to be delivered via a pamphlet? I would encourage you not to just create a pamphlet that just sits in the waiting room. I think that's probably not as intentional for the delivery of the document that occurs right after the exam room. But maybe the thing that is the pamphlet that gets handed at the beginning or email distribution before, maybe that is more informational. So think about when and how. Is it going to be remote when you're going to send this out? Are you going to send it out a week before or right at the comprehensive exam? When is the best time in your mind? Hello and welcome to the Chris Wolfe Podcast on iCode Media. Today I want to talk about step 3 of building a protocol. This is what we call comprehensive optometry simplified within iCode, and it's been taking off across the country. We have every single week, we have new clients that have reached out to us to help with this process. It's been a ton of fun. But a few weeks ago, I went through step 1 and step 2. So what is your intake process when you're building a pillar around an ocular disease state? Step 2 was what is your protocol? What protocol are you going to follow, and how are you going to work that protocol into your practice? So within comprehensive care, when are you going to be doing an OCT or testing for dry eye or running a visual field? How is that going to work? And when are you likely going to see the patient back based on clinical practice guidelines and preferred practice patterns? So that was step 1 and step 2. Step 3 today, we're going to talk about what are the documents and how are we going to communicate to the patient about this disease that they have, and how are we going to get out of the way of helping them do what they ought to do to manage that disease. So please enjoy this monologue. As always, be sure to subscribe to the podcast, write a review, share it with your friends, and support those who support us. The most common questions I get include, what ophthalmological codes or evaluation and management codes should I use? What ICD-10 codes do I need to bill with this CPT code? What CPT codes can be billed together and what can't? And my favorite, how do I manage a patient who has diabetes who comes in for a quote-unquote routine eye exam? These questions really highlight the confusion and uncertainty that serves as a daunting hurdle for providers, makes it more challenging for them to care for their patients and provide those patients with the best opportunity for a lifetime of ocular health and clear vision. That's why we built iCode Education, for this specific purpose. Our mission is to provide optometrists with resources to help you understand disease states, revenue cycles, and billing and coding so that you can put that on autopilot and truly care for your patients. Check out iCodeEducation.com. That's EYECODE education.com. We've developed a premier billing and coding bundle that includes all of our billing and coding resources in one place. We also have a 10% discount code just for listeners of this podcast. Enter the coupon code EYECODEMEDIA22 at checkout. We'd love to work with you. Check out iCodeEducation.com. Hello, dedicated optometrists. Are you looking for a way to support your patient's vision and overall eye health? Let me introduce you to Vision Edge Pro, a visual performance supplement that stands out in our profession. Vision Edge Pro contains a balanced blend of mesozeaxanthine, lutein, and zeaxanthine in a 10-10-2 ratio. This combination has been scientifically shown to increase macular pigment density, which enhances visual performance, including contrast sensitivity and vision in glare situations. Additionally, Vision Edge Pro provides 300 milligrams of DHA and EPA, fulfilling the daily requirements for omega-3s as recognized by the leading health organizations. This ensures your patients receive the essential nutrients their eyes need for optimal health. Whether it's for everyday screen use, night driving, or enjoying the outdoors, Vision Edge Pro supports your patients in seeing their best. Recommend Vision Edge Pro for your patients today and help them achieve clearer, healthier vision. Contact your local MacuHealth representative for more details. Vision Edge Pro, because your patients deserve the best in eye health. Go to MacuHealth.com and use the coupon code PODCAST2024 at checkout for special discounts. All right, so step 3, what we're going to do is we're going to think about what are the educational documents that we need to develop in our practice in order to convey the messaging to the patient about their disease. So the first part of step 3, I always guide our clients in thinking about, all right, well, what are we going to need to reinforce the diagnosis and treatment plan and the reason for follow-up. So let's just use dry eye as an example. So dry eye is an easy one in my mind because there are so many points. It's an easy one from the standpoint of what you're going to need to inform the patient of, but it's a hard one because people will sort of hem and haw if they haven't thought about this process. So the first thing is, what are the documents that we're going to need? Well, you might need a document that's going to talk about dry eye before the patient even enters into the exam room. On this podcast, we talked with Tom Chapman about priming. So Tom Chapman with Peak about how do we prime patients so that they're aware that the problem that they might be having can be addressed by you. Now, the reality is like, I don't like the idea of selling to patients or manipulating them in any way, but oftentimes our patients don't even know what we can do for them if we haven't told them what we can do for them. And because of that, if we're not taking a proactive approach to inform them, then by the time they get to us in the first place, they don't really understand that we can help them. And so it's a barrier right at the beginning. So if I start talking about dry eye and they don't even know that their symptoms could be related to dry eye, then it's a challenge for them. So one of the things might be, well, what documents do we need to provide the patient before they even see us to start to help them understand that the fact that their eyes are watery when they go outside could be an ocular surface disease? Are we going to also convey that burning to their eyes when they close them after they've been on the computer, or after a long day, their eyes feeling tired on a computer? Those may not be normal things. So do we need documents that we might email out to them or provide them via text before they kind of prime that pump to let them say like, oh yeah, this is a problem. And oh, Dr. Wolfe can help me with that. So again, if we're building a dry eye protocol, we want to start even before we see that comprehensive care patient, to plant that seed, to ask questions about what they may be having, and then to provide information that they may not be aware that their symptoms that they're having is first abnormal, and second, you can help them with. So that might be a document. So that would be an example of the type of document. Are there other documents that you're going to need to help them once you've been examined and once you're following that process that you need to convey to that patient? So are there reinforcement documents related to ocular surface disease? Remember, in the last time we might have talked about, a patient comes with a comprehensive exam, you slide that slit lamp away, or you pull the slit lamp away and you say, great news, Mrs. Smith, I've got a new prescription for you. That'll help you with your blurry vision up close. But I've also noticed that you've got this overgrowth of microorganisms and obstructed oil glands in your eyelids, and that's causing your eyes to water. And so I want you to do X, Y, and Z. We followed a process, we followed a protocol, and I'm going to see you back in 1 month. At that visit, at that comprehensive exam, are there other things that you want to provide to the patient that will help you disclose what they can maybe expect at the follow-up exam? So we're going to dive deeper into looking at all of these tests. Maybe you want to show them that you're going to do a lot of lab tests. Maybe you're going to do osmolarity. Maybe you're going to do MMP9s. Maybe you're going to look at meibography. Maybe you're going to look at corneal staining or conjunctival staining, just to prepare that patient, but also to inform them like, hey, this is different. We're going to dive deeper into this problem when we see you back. Some offices like to really take a deep dive because they've been doing so much routine and managed vision care that this process is so dramatically different to that patient and to that practice that they feel the need to disclose, because it's unusual to disclose that other follow-up visit may be going to a different payer. I think this is a great time, a great opportunity to develop something that is patient-facing, that describes the differences so that on follow-up, they'll expect that. So those are the types of things. Are you going to need to cover that so that the patient understands it might be different than what they're used to getting in the practice? And then do they get these documents? You want to be intentional about when you're going to deliver these documents. Is the document going to be delivered right away? Are you going to follow up with them in a week, in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks? One of the things, and I'll use Peak as an example, we've really worked with Peak to try to say, okay, well, we always, in our practice, we believe as part of our processes, we're going to start you with compresses and lid scrubs. And so we're going to start that, and then we'll follow up with that patient in 1 month. Well, one of the challenges is that when you reach back out to that patient in a week or 2 weeks, a number of them may not be using what you've asked them to use already. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Or, oh, I didn't know how to use it. I know you told me, but I wasn't entirely clear. And so they just don't do it. And we've found even within Peak and that's what we've leaned on Peak to do. And you can certainly do the same thing if you choose, but we've leaned on Peak to say, okay, well, here's the patients in our practice. We've got a BAA with them and it's HIPAA compliant that we have started on these treatments. Now, Peak, you reach out to them in a week, 2 weeks to see if they have any questions about how to use it. Are they having any issues? To educate them again that the tingling they're going to experience with tea tree oil-based solutions is going to be tingly. That's normal. But redness and puffiness around the lids, that's not normal. So if the patient has that, it provides another opportunity for them to drive the patient back into our office to address those types of problems. And so I say all that to say that that's another touch point that we weren't doing 6 months ago in our practice, that is about patient information and patient education and support that we've found really beneficial, so that patient, when they come back at 1 month, they've already done the things that we've asked them to do. And if that's not enough to take another step, then it's not enough to take care of their problems, then we can address that with another step. So you want to be intentional about when you're going to deliver those documents. And then also, how are you going to deliver them? So is it going to be delivered via phone call? Is it going to be delivered via a pamphlet? I would encourage you not to just create a pamphlet that just sits in the waiting room. I think that's probably not as intentional for the delivery of the document that occurs right after the exam room. But maybe the thing that is the pamphlet that gets handed at the beginning or email distribution before, maybe that is more informational. So think about when and how. Is it going to be remote when you're going to send this out? Are you going to send it out a week before or right at the comprehensive exam? When is the best time in your mind? And also be willing, and we're going to talk about this in step 5, but be willing to modify that over time. If you find that it's not successful because you've used metrics to track it, which is, again, what we've been harping on a lot of people, is thinking about KPIs, so you know if the things you're doing are going to have an impact on your practice and your patients, and primarily your patients. And so how are you going to provide that? It's going to be, you want to drive traffic to your website. So you're going to have patients scan QR codes that link to your website. They give them videos. Are you going to house them on YouTube? Are you going to house them embedded within your website? So those are things that can help kind of a bigger picture, even from a marketing standpoint, that might be beneficial to your practice. And then we really love, at iCode, we really love the story brand method. There are other methods for marketing, but we really love the story brand method because it basically gets around a patient's, and it gets around the way that we want to give information, or maybe that we've been trained to give information, which immediately is met with, from a patient standpoint, is immediately met with barriers. They're trying to analyze if they trust you, rather than trying to analyze what they ought to be doing in the best interest of themselves. And so we really like to deliver messages via story brand. I'll say that again. We get nothing from promotion of story brand. I think it's just a really great methodology for how to talk about a patient disease that helps them do what's in their best interest, as opposed to makes them worry about, well, how much is it going to cost? And is it going to hurt? And can I do the things that you're asking me to do? And do I trust you? To saying, oh yeah, I need to do that because I understand what's at stake if I don't, and I understand what will occur if I do it. So I'm going to tell you these steps. They're available. You can find them anywhere. Even if you chat GPT story brand steps, it'll tell you, right? There's no secret here. Now, they have a process that you can follow that helps guide you through, just like what we have, but there's a free version if you want to use that. CooperVision and the AOA have joined forces in a groundbreaking initiative to transform how optometrists treat children with myopia. The Myopia Collective aims to unite our profession and its allies to challenge the status quo and elevate the standard of care for children with myopia. Everyone is invited to become a member of the collective. By joining, you pledge to act in slowing childhood myopia progression. Membership includes regular updates and information about the collective's efforts, access to educational opportunities and resources, and insights from the ambassador optometrists who advocate for community policy and changes supporting the collective's mission. Click the link in the show notes to join the collective today. We've been partnering with EssilorLuxottica 360 for a while now, and it helps us in 3 areas. First, they use social media campaigns to highlight products that we believe in and prescribe to our patients, and they deliver those patients back to our practice. Second, EssilorLuxottica 360 enhances our patient experience through staff training tools that help us simplify and streamline the way we communicate about our products and services. Lastly, but for my practice most importantly, it helps us make good business decisions related to our optical offerings. We will systematically and objectively analyze what our patients are purchasing and what they like, and removing products that our patients are not really using or not really drawn to. This, along with additional rebates and immediate savings, helps us continue to deliver high-quality products and services to our patients and keeps our practice resilient. Check out EssilorLuxottica 360 for yourself by visiting EssilorLuxottica360.com. So typically it is start with stating the problem, both practical and emotional, from a patient's perspective. So, what would be it? So you'd start by saying, okay, well, a patient who has dry eye, what might be a problem? A practical problem for that patient might be that their eyes are burning and gritting when this problem happens. So, when dry eye, we know that when patients have dry eye, their eyes can burn, they can itch, they can water, they can be blurry, their vision can be blurry, etc. Okay, that would be a practical problem. And because of that, they have a challenge performing their work or wearing their contacts or having clear, consistent vision throughout the day. That might be the way that we would describe the problem. So we know that patients who have dry eye experience watering, burning, gritty, fluctuating vision, or can experience any one of those things, and that can impact their quality of life through their vision or through their ability to work. Something like that. That might be a practical problem. Then you can also state it from an emotional standpoint. So you might say patients who have burning, gritty, irritated eyes and have a hard time performing their activities, their work activities, or they're stressed out at the end of the day because of that burning and watering and grittiness, they can be uncertain about or confused about why this occurs. And that can lead to anxiety in their ability to perform their work. Something like that might be a way that is an emotional, right? We use the terms anxiety, confused, discomfort. Those are the kind of things that patients might experience. And it's hard because we see this all the time. So it's hard to say like, well, I know if my eyes are watery, they're dry. That doesn't cause me a lot of anxiety because I understand the pathophysiology of it because this is what I do all day long. But a patient doesn't necessarily know that. And so they might blame allergies when it's really other ocular surface diseases. They might blame blue light when it might be an accommodative problem. And so, but there's confusion because they don't really know what's going on. So that's kind of the first step is how would you state this problem in a way that communicates to that patient's perspective of what they may be encountering. And then you want to position your plan as the solution, right? So obviously it could be a product, but again, within comprehensive optometry, I don't think the product is the most important part. It's the treatment option or the solution that you're offering them. And so, one of the things that you might say would be, because of all of these things, we understand that you might be frustrated with this. We've curated a solution which includes warm compresses and lid scrubs as an example. And that can manage, that's kind of the base of what we do. And that will help 80 to 90% of every single patient we see that's in your scenario. So we've curated that specifically for patients like you in order to treat this condition. Right? That might be the way that you are communicating with it, with that patient related to your initial solution step. You could also plant the seed by saying, in those patients in that 20 to 30% or maybe 10 to 20% of patients that do not respond, do not improve with this, we have lots of other things that we can do, but let's make this first step the simple one. Okay, so you're thinking about how am I going to communicate with that about that to the patient? in a way that helps them. And then we often find that there's a step-by-step plan. So if I'm talking about dry eye, I might say something like, the very first thing we do is we treat those oil glands and we treat the microorganisms that are along the surface of the eyelid, and we do that for 1 month. If that's not enough, we can take the next step to do X, Y, and Z. So if we're going to break this down and say, the first thing we're going to have you do is, I'm going to have you start using warm compresses and lid scrubs. That's step 1. Step 2 is we're going to schedule you back in 1 month for an evaluation. Step 3 is we're going to provide that evaluation. And then maybe step 4 is, depending on that evaluation, we're going to have a targeted treatment for whatever might be plaguing you that is beyond the scope of this first step in compresses and lid scrubs. So really make it simple. Maybe it's 2 or 3 steps, maybe 4 steps that patient is going to follow. Why do we let them follow it? Because it's a pathway, right? So it's a pathway that they can get beyond the challenge that they're having right now, and it's definitive. They know if they do step 1, followed by step 2, followed by step 3, they will be likely in a better place than they were before they started step 1. And then it's also important to articulate to that patient about what's going to happen if they don't do this. And you don't have to make them afraid. I'm not a really big fan of motivating patients through fear in the vast majority of cases. Obviously the patients that are not adhering to their glaucoma medications and their pressures are 40, right? I mean, maybe that's a different situation, but for these kinds of things, I don't like fear as the big motivator, but we have lots of patients who have come to us in a very advanced state. Now we can help make them better, but they find it's really difficult for them to get through the day because their condition has gotten so challenging without disruptions to their vision, to their ocular comfort, to their contact lens wear, as an example, right? That is you're telling a story to that patient about what you've seen clinically if in patients who have not either found this condition early or who have followed your advice over time, right? So you're basically telling them what might happen. You're not scaring them. You're just saying, and then you might even follow up with saying, and we can help those patients, but we'd much rather help patients before they get to that place, right? It's a lot easier for us to take care of this problem before it gets to the point of severe condition. So again, you don't have to say, I'm going to not help you if you don't listen to what I tell you, but you can also plant the seed that hey, listen, we can do a lot more things, but I'd much rather do the easy things because that way that we can prevent this other stuff down the road from occurring. So I think and then also, thinking about, well, what would happen if the patient does follow your plan, right? So we find that patients that do X, Y, and Z, so we find that patients that do warm compresses and lid scrubs, over time, if they are consistent with that, they have more stable vision, less irritation, their eyelids feel cleaner, and they have less disruption in their normal contact lens wear and their normal comfort for a long time. We have to do less significant interventions for those patients than patients that don't do those things. They have less acute red eyes, less flare-ups. And so they're thinking about their eyes less over time because they're having less problems with their eyes and their vision, right? That might be how we tell that story. So that is step 3 in a nutshell. And I think ultimately what we're trying to do is inform the patient, be intentional about how we're informing that patient, and intentional about how we're telling the stories to the patient about why they have what they have, what they have, and how they can fix what they have or prevent worse problems from what they're dealing with. And so be intentional about that when you're building a pillar. Be intentional about that. I hope this was helpful. If you have any other questions, please reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you about it. If you want to look into Comprehensive Optometry Simplified, that is available through our website at icodeeducation.com. I hope this was helpful for you. We'll see you guys on the next one. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and our YouTube channel, both linked in the show notes. Now, here's something exciting. We're giving away a 1-year subscription to Comprehensive Optometry Simplified. All you have to do is leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, take a screenshot, and email it to me at questions@icodeeducation.com. We'll put that in the show notes as well. We'll be selecting a winner on December 15th. So don't miss your chance to get access to this valuable resource. Thanks again for listening. I can't wait to see your reviews.